How's it going, GP fam? It's your boy here, Bizarro, bringing you that sweet content you've been asking for. Welcome to another video from Galactic Perspective. Here we cover all things entertainment such as video games, comics, TV shows, movies, and more. So if you're into that kind of thing, do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe, and click that bell to be notified for more galactic content. We release 2 videos a week, Tuesdays and Fridays at 4 p.m. We even drop bonus episodes periodically as well. So today's video is episode 2 of Rank 'em, and we are crowning the greatest console of all time. This video has been debated and ranked by all the members of the Galactic Perspective crew. It was an awesome process and has drastically changed from that original list that I had. So we have ranked 10 systems based on our opinion and the impact that they had on the industry. Each member of the GP crew will tell you their entries and why they feel it should be on this list. So kick back, relax, get that drum roll ready, and crack open those bottles of Yoo-Hoo, and let's crown the greatest console of all time. Coming in at number 10 is the Sega Genesis. The Sega Genesis launched in America in 1988 and helped Sega get their roots into the country and help gain the popularity they deserved. Sega had already released the Master System, but it just never took off in the United States, and I mean, it did well over in Japan, but the market share just did not captivate for them because of the Nintendo Entertainment System. So with that failure, they decided to get a jump on Nintendo with the 16-bit war, and they launched this beautiful Sega Genesis. Launching with their new mascot, Sonic the Hedgehog, they pushed out classics and let you know quickly that Sega does what Nintendo don't.
What Nintendo.
This was the first and only real time that 2 companies went to battle, and the battle was neck and neck. I mean, this war was incredible. The Genesis pushed for a different audience back then, while as Nintendo pushed the Super Nintendo as a family-friendly console. With the success, Sega realized they had a golden goose and pushed it probably too far. The release of the Sega CD and 32X add-ons with terrible price points and the Tower of Power debacle, it quickly turned consumers away to the competition. You mix that with the Japanese office putting out the Saturn just a day before the 32X add-on released, and that was trouble in paradise, and consumers could smell blood in the water and went back to Nintendo as quickly as they ran to Sega in the first place. But regardless of that, the Genesis was amazing and pushed the envelope, even though sometimes it was too far.
Coming at you at number 9 is the GameCube. The GameCube was released in 2001 in Japan and North America. The GameCube is Nintendo's 6th generation of consoles and the successor to the previous console, the Nintendo 64. Their games came in a mini DVD based format. You couldn't watch any DVDs or listen to any CDs on it like some of the consoles you could at the time. You could play a small number of games using the Game Boy Advance. This console was absolutely loved for its controllers, the extensive software library, and the high quality games, but was super criticized for the exterior design and the lack of features. A lot of the more popular games that you would always see people playing is Super Mario, of course, Resident Evil, The Legends of Zelda, and Soul Calibur. Nintendo sold over 20 million consoles worldwide before it was unfortunately discontinued in 2007.
Alright, coming in at number 8, we have the one, the only, original PlayStation. Released in 1994 in Japan and then a year later in the United States, it was part of the 5th generation of consoles, which consisted of the N64 and the Sega Saturn. Now, the idea for the PlayStation was actually conceived through the partnership of Nintendo and Sony back in the late 80s and early 90s. Now, Nintendo went on to create the SNES without the help of Sony, and Sony separated and made its own console, the original PlayStation. What was unique about the PlayStation at the time was the fact that it was using CDs instead of cartridges, which the Nintendo 64 at the time still was. As far as the games go for the PlayStation, there was a huge variety of games on this console. In its 12-year lifespan, this console almost reached 8,000 total games. Some of the more famous games are still being made today, such as the Metal Gear Solid series, Tomb Raider, Crash Bandicoot, and Final Fantasy VII. The best-selling game on the console was Gran Turismo, which almost sold 11 million copies, which is a lot of games. And a little fact you may not know, the original controller had no analog sticks on the controller, and the controller wasn't changed till a couple years after the console came out and it was given the analog sticks. A lot of the success of the PlayStation can be contributed to the fact that the cartridge consoles were sort of fading away, which is one of the reasons we have it on this list. Also with the fact that it has spawned 5 generations of PlayStations. Coupled with the fact that it was the first home console to sell over 100 million units worldwide, and the impact it still has on our video gaming world today, is why we have it on this list. On to the next one.
Hello and welcome to number 7 on our list. It's a good one. The Atari 2600, also known as the Atari Video Computer System, as I got one of the original ones here. Had it since high school. Absolutely love it. This thing is at number 7 because obviously it is one of these systems that started video gaming. It is just miraculous how long it's lasted, how long it's went. It almost was produced for 20 years, and at the end of its lifetime, it actually ended up selling 30 million units was sold across the lifetime that this thing was made. And just the sheer amount of games that was made on this, and like I said, where gaming got its start, you got stuff like Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, Mario Brothers was on here, Donkey Kong was on here. Just all these good games that came out. It was bundled with combat, and even though simple joystick and one button, a lot of people might complain that the Magnavox Odyssey was before this, but this is really what changed it and revolutionized it. And Atari was kind of like a household name for many, many years. And soon just even more games, Space Invaders, Pitfall. I mean, they just put out really good games, and let's be honest, they put out a lot of bad games too, but every system does. And any collecting store you go to, there's just tons and tons and stacks on top of stacks of Atari games. And in just our opinion, for the whole GP crew, this is the system that really got video game leaped off and moving in a direction of where it is today, and gave us a bunch of those household names as video games too, because we still play Mario today. So this is number 7. It could easily be higher on this list, but I think this is a good spot. We got a lot of good systems after this, but really, really good to see this here.
Alrighty guys, so coming in at number 6 is the Nintendo Wii. Nintendo has always been a big competitor in the gaming market, and this is of course no exception with the Nintendo Wii. In a lot of ways, it was very similar to the Nintendo Switch at launch. Super hard to get after they were gone. And of course, Wii's are everywhere today. You almost can't give them away, but they were a super hot item of their time. With a low price point of $250 at launch, it was really obtainable for a lot of families. It also did a good job at bringing those families together by appealing to all audiences with the motion controls. So if you're sitting playing with a controller, sometimes the older generation might not really understand and connect to what you're doing. But whereas you would be hitting a tennis ball with the movement, they kind of connected to that. Not only those topics, but the Nintendo Wii is actually an emulator as well, and arguably still one of the best emulators on the market today. You can play titles from the Sega Genesis, as well as all eras of Nintendo.
Coming in number 5 is the Super Nintendo. The Super Nintendo was released in 1990 in Japan and South Korea, and 1991 in North America. It was the second released console by Nintendo. The Super Nintendo was super praised for its advanced graphics and sound capabilities compared to other consoles out at the time. It was the best-selling game console in the 16-bit era. A lot of the more popular games that you would see people playing is Super Mario, obviously, Bomberman, Donkey Kong, and Street Fighter. This console was such a fan favorite that now you can even buy a more updated version of it, which goes by the NES Classic Edition, which is bought by so many people and collected by so many retro gamers. The original Super Nintendo sold over 40 million copies worldwide, but was sadly discontinued in 2003.
Alright, number 4 on our list is this little bad boy right here. What I like to call the NES, or the Nintendo Entertainment System. First released in Japan as the Famicom unit, or the Family Computer, also known as. Sold over 60 million units in its lifetime, which is absolutely amazing. I actually learned something while looking this up, that over in Japan they actually worked on the Family Computers and like refurbed them up until 2007. So I thought that was pretty great, because that's a long lifetime for this thing. But just so many great games, and this system actually brought us the household names that we have today when it comes to Mario, Zelda. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. The Wario games, movie games started coming out like The Lion King and stuff like that for this system. Just such a great system, a good variety of games, easy to play, and just something that you did as kids. And they had so many innovative things for this when it came to Duck Hunt with the shooter gun. Even they had like a little type of VR kind of thing that we know obviously didn't really work out that well. And then also that I remember the Rob. That was like one of my favorite things, the ROB robot that you could plug into it. Just so many things for this system. Really unique, but still going today. It's standing the test of time. And this is actually what kickstarted Nintendo coming out of the arcade system era and making their own home system for us to play. And thankfully today we can play all of these games that we know and love. So good spot here at number 4. Let's move on.
Alrighty guys, so coming in at number 3 is the Xbox 360. Why, you may ask? Well, for starters, the lower price point compared to the PlayStation 3 of the same generation. So the Xbox 360 had the lowest price, which was $299, and the PS3's lowest console was actually $600. Not only that, but the Xbox 360 really molded the expectations that we have for online play today. Not to mention it had better graphics than the PlayStation.
Alright, coming in at number 1 is the Nintendo... What? It's number 1. Number 2? What? Who made this list? Oh, come on. Alright, coming in at number 2, we have the Nintendo 64. So released in 1996, the N64 was another one of those 5th generation consoles with a Sega Saturn and the PlayStation. And sadly, it was one of the last cartridge consoles. Upon launch, this console was a whopping $199. It also came with Super Mario 64 and Pilot Wing. And while other consoles on the market were going more of the CD route, Nintendo decided to go with a cartridge for several reasons. For one, it allowed almost zero load time in-game as opposed to its CD counterparts with the PlayStation. Having cartridges also meant that the games were less susceptible to damage, and the biggest reason was for Nintendo and its privacy concerns. But also coming along with cartridges meant that Nintendo was aiming for more of a quality marker over quantity, as you can see with the PlayStation and its 8,000 games. Speaking of games, you cannot be a 90s kid and not remember games like GoldenEye, Ocarina of Time, Super Mario 64. Those are classics. Super Mario 64 actually became the best-selling game of the generation, outselling games like Gran Turismo and Final Fantasy VII for the PlayStation. The Nintendo 64 also managed to get Time's Machine of the Year award in 1996. It might be hard to see why we have this at number 2 on the list, but for the sheer nostalgia factor, coupled with the fact that games like GoldenEye helped define the first-person shooter genre going forward, also games like Super Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time helped shape those 3D adventure games that we still play today. And while I'm disappointed that this console did not make it to number 1, I'm sure you guys will be excited to see what's in the top spot.
Our very first honorable mention we're going to have is the Nintendo Switch. I'm not going to go into stats on this because We all know this is a phenomenal system. It is really good. We got in a debate as the GP crew was talking about this, of not putting newer systems on there. And even though this one is a little bit older than the PlayStation 5 and the Series X, we just kind of threw it in honorable mentions because it is so great. And a bunch of us wanted it in the top 10. We just felt like, you know, for now, with it being so new, let's just see how the lifetime of this thing goes. But of course, Nintendo owns the handheld gaming system in all of our opinions. And just to make a home system that does both, where you can take this with you as well or play at home, just a great idea. And obviously they have perfected it. Even one of their other best-selling systems of all time, the Nintendo Wii, and the movement controls that those controllers had, these Joy-Cons are 10 times better than that. So they literally just have taken everything that they're experts on and wrapped it all into one and made this beautifully made, wonderful system that we all love. And if we make this list again in 2 or 3 years, I almost would guarantee that this would be in the top 10 for our list because we all like it. Just mainly for it being so new, we're leaving it here as an honorable mention. Don't be mad at us, people, okay? We know it's great.
Finishing out the honorable mentions is the Sega Dreamcast. This console was ahead of its time and sadly was defeated before its launch due to its company's implosion. It opened the door for online gaming and gave us classic games that many people still go back to play still today. Had it not been deemed a failure, this system would be on this list as more than just an honorable mention. But with that said, let's go on to number 1.
Okay, drum roll please. The moment you've all been waiting for. Our number 1 spot goes to the PS2. And that is because, still today, it is the highest selling console that has ever been on the market, with 155 million consoles sold. And that absolutely blew the market out of the water for that time period. That would have been the Nintendo GameCube and the original Xbox. Both sold under 25 million consoles, and that is today's numbers. And again, this console appealed to all age groups. It had exclusive titles such as Crash Bandicoot, and on the other hand, for the older market, God of War, and everything in between. Which actually brings me to my next point. With the launch price of $299, it was comparatively cheaper to some of the same type of machinery out at the time, specifically DVD players. This was a huge argument point for the children of that generation to argue for their parents to be getting a PlayStation 2 because it was the cheapest DVD player on the market of the time. When it was released, the DVD players averaged between around $700 to $1,200. Personally, my first console was a PlayStation 2 that was truly mine. So of course, this console has a special place in my heart. Now here comes Bizarro.
That was our list of the greatest consoles of all time. Do you agree? What would be your number 1? Let us know down in the comments section below. While you're at it, let us know what you'd like us to rank in future episodes of Rank 'em. We'd love to hear from you and do what you would like to see. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and click that bell to be notified for more out of this world content. This has been all of us at Galactic Perspective. Until next time.